If you guys haven't heard by now, yeah, this is the Nick Frazier Podcast, and you're getting the best genuine content out there. Right, fellas?
Sure. Agreed.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Nick Frazier Podcast. We're back with a little bit of Nashville SC news going on. Recently, this past weekend, Nashville SC, they unveiled their brand new away kit, away jersey, however you want to say it. It is a collaboration with the Johnny Cash estate. It is a Johnny Cash-inspired jersey. I think they call it like the Man in Black, I believe. No, there's a movie called Men in Black, but I'm pretty sure it's Man in Black after one of Johnny Cash's songs. So it's pretty damn awesome. I'll admit. I think I'm going to put it somewhere right here. I think you'll see it on this white wall, I think. I'll put some pictures of it, whatever. But it's pretty freaking awesome. I saw it the first time ever, probably around December 31st, January 1st, Footy Headlines. They're a website that normally leaks, jerseys, kits for football, soccer type jerseys before, I guess the management team or whoever's with the club or organization, they release it to the public. They somehow get their hands on it. I don't know how they do it, but they do. That's when I first saw the jersey. I was like, wow, this is nice. But it didn't have any of the Johnny Cash stuff, like his signature on the back of the neck part right here, or the picture of Johnny Cash at the jail or whatever. It didn't have any of that. So I thought this was pretty cool to see it finally in its full glory, I guess the best way to put it. It's pretty freaking awesome that Nashville can kind of go away from its original blue and gold type thing, gold and blue, they're still the boys in gold type thing, but I think this just brings a new doorway to other opportunities with Nashville SC and their jerseys and stuff. I mean, I'm not too big on getting into stuff like this, but being a Nashville kid through and through, this is something pretty cool. It's something that if you're not a soccer fan or a football fan, however you pronounce it, and you're just like, man, I love country music, but I also love Johnny Cash. I don't really like soccer, but I'll give it a try. I feel like this could be a good segue into that. So saying that, I was like, yeah, this is perfect. Not only for the sport, not only for the organization, but good for the fan base around Nashville that are not soccer fans. I think that it's a great opportunity for people that have not been to the new stadium, and which I recommend you should, because that place is awesome. Club level is great. Suite level is great. Field level is great. I mean, anywhere, any seat in that stadium, and it is just, I don't want to say bad, because it's not. It's phenomenal. That's the best way to put it. It literally, any seat is great. Personally, I like the higher seats because you're able to see a better vantage point of the whole field. You get to see, I like the formation of the game. I like seeing the formation and how things play out. And, I'm not no coach or anything, but I enjoy seeing that type of that part of the game. And it's pretty cool. I think it's probably one of the cooler stadiums I've been to. Now with it being, I think, qualified as the biggest soccer-specific stadium in North America, that's pretty cool. And on top of that, I didn't talk about this before, but I probably should have. Nashville SC with their Johnny Cash jerseys, it finally resonates with people that probably don't remember when Nashville SC first came into the MLS. Their first ever game against Atlanta United was at Nissan Stadium, and there was a giant tifo. I have to put it somewhere over here, but this tifo was Johnny Cash on the front of it, and I was like, that is pretty freaking awesome. That just screams Nashville, and I think that's what the soccer club needs, is just more Nashville originality. It just needs more of that, and I think you'll get more original fans. I mean, I'm not saying they don't have original fans now, because, if you look at it, the back line, the roadies, the assembly, there are plenty more that are out there that support Nashville SC. So if you're out there, put your comment down below. Let me know you're in there, because I'm still getting used to it. My favorite soccer club is overseas in Italy. It's AC Milan. So I don't really have a huge connection to the MLS, but for it being a hometown team, I was full-fledged into it back in the day when they were fan-owned. Back in the day, they were playing Vanderbilt's soccer stadium before it was even a recognized league or whatever. So I believe it was the NPSL. I think so. I think it's just super cool what Nashville SC is doing. They're implementing stuff from, the Nashville scene of it all with Johnny Cash. They're implementing a new style of just all black, which I think is cool. It just, the whole storyline of it all, just putting it together is great. It's great for the sport, great for the city, great for the club, just great for it all. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. I will say there are a few cons. There are a few cons when I first saw it. First, when I saw it, I was like, oh man, this gives me like Las Vegas Raider vibes. Like, it just has that silver and black type thing. I was like, I don't know. I'll get used to it. I mean, I don't have no hatred towards the Raiders, but I was like, it just reminded me of the Raiders. I don't know why. But the other thing is, like, you have something that's great. Nashville SC has something that's great right now. Let's not abuse it or overuse it is a better way to put it. Because I know it's the away jersey, primary away jersey, but this whole theme of let's do a blackout at the stadium or whatever, like, that's great, but let's just not overuse it. I think that's the problem, because like when you have something original like this, you don't want it to lose its gusto with overusing it too much. So that's just how I look at it. But it's Nashville sees it still a baby. They're still a new organization in the grand scheme of it all in the league. So I definitely could see this thing really taking off, and I hope it does. I really do, because it's a great jersey. I got to put it somewhere in here, actually. I got to buy me one and put it in here. That'd be pretty cool. Put it in the podcast studio. So that's the first thing that I thought was pretty cool. Probably the next thing I'm going to talk about, it's a huge 180. It's a different sport, which is golf. I haven't really been the biggest golfer, but recently, my uncle has been getting into golf. He's been watching it a lot, gotten me, watching it a lot more. And, my brother and my dad and stuff, they've been huge golfers ever since, my brother was little and such, but I never really got around to it. I think it was just because the patience of it all. I just didn't have the patience to grab a club and just sit there and wait in a golf cart or walk 4.5 miles, whatever, per day to play golf. I don't know. I don't know. I enjoy it now. For the most part, I'll play it recreationally. But yeah, back to the reason why I was watching and stuff. I was on Netflix one day. I was like, oh, this is cool. Full Swing. I wonder what this is about. Well, come to find out, it just came out recently. I think like the day I watched it was the first day it premiered or something. And I was like, wow, I'm kind of hooked. Like, for example, I'm a prime example for this. I'm not the biggest golf fan, but watching the first episode with Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, and a little background before I get into all this, I know golfers. I know how the game is played. I'm not in tune with all the underlying storylines that go behind golf. All right, so let's put that out there. But, starting out with the first episode with Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, I had no clue that they were friends, and I thought it was pretty cool to see, like, some cool banter back and forth between friends that have kind of grown up in the PGA circuit with having, a bloodline of older relatives that have played in the PGA Tour or been a part of it. I thought it was kind of cool because they're like the young guns, the new era of golf, and it's been like, hey, it was more of an inviting episode. It's very blue collar, I guess is the best way to put it. But then, you go into the next episode, and the following episode, I think, was like Mito Pereira, the guy from Chile. And that was a cool thing, seeing, it's a little bit of a spoiler, but it was a pretty cool thing seeing the first episode, and I think like the fourth or fifth episode, whenever Mito Pereira's in it, it showed, when Justin Thomas and Mito Pereira were in the last two on the 18th green or something for the PGA Championship, and it shows Justin Thomas's perspective on how he played out the hole, and it shows in the other episode how Mito Pereira played out his perspective of the hole. I thought it was a cool dynamic that the docuseries kind of expressed to the viewers. I don't know if anybody else has kind of picked up on that, but highly recommend watching it. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I love the docuseries for sports. They're pretty cool. But it also went into a little bit more like the live golf stuff with Brooks Koepka, Ian Poulter, and that was another cool thing to compare their two viewpoints of how they look at live golf. And it was more the fact that Ian Poulter's man, I could do well for my family. One tournament basically was almost a full career's worth of earnings through the PGA. I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. But there's also that respect factor too. And I don't think things kind of really took off that way. But for some people, it was looked at as I can set my family up for the better. And I mean, that's kind of the American dream, is to make a lot of money and make sure your family's okay. That's the original American dream. So I understand that viewpoint, but there's some other viewpoints in there that I kind of don't understand for the most part. But I could probably, gotta look more into it, I guess. I don't know. But I thought that was pretty cool. I watched the Genesis Invitational this past weekend. I think that's like, I don't think it's a major tournament, but I could be completely wrong. Obviously, John Rahm won. I thought that was pretty cool. John Rahm's been kind of hot recently. He's been winning a lot of tournaments. I watched Tiger for a little bit. That's another person that's so interesting to watch. Like, I've watched his Tiger documentary on HBO Max, and it's insane what that guy has gone through. To the fact, I already knew about Tiger. I mean, as a little kid, you kind of know about Tiger. Tiger Woods is the Michael Jordan of golf. It's crazy to see how his career has progressed into having a major setback and having a big comeback, and now an even bigger setback, and now he's somehow able to, make it work. That's something that I just find crazy, is that even though this guy has been he has had obstacles put in front of him, he has still somehow been able to keep on climbing and climbing and climbing. And seeing him play in the Genesis Invitational this past weekend was fun to watch. Obviously, he had some low points and some high points. I think his last round he shot like 4 under, I think, or something like that. But overall, that's insane. That is insane to me that a guy like that can still, at his age, go out there and just not throw a ball, but just hit a ball 300 and something odd, I think like 325 or something odd yards. And like Rory barely outdrove him one time. And then that's when I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, oh, wow, let me listen to Tiger's, post-match interview or post-round interview. And some guy asked me, goes, so Tiger, what is like the biggest issue with you, like after your injury and now, like, how are you able to, like, make both of them work? He goes, well, first off, I don't have that torque anymore. Like, he can't press off his foot because of his leg. And then you also got to remember I have a fused back as well. So, like, he said he's trying to work with both. And the fact that he is working with both and still able to send a ball 300 plus yards off a freaking tee box it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's not kind of crazy. It is crazy. This guy is just out there. Tiger's out there doing his thing. But, the more and more I watch golf, the more and more I'm starting to grow, a liking to it. I never disliked it. I just never really saw the time for it, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know. That might not be the best way to put it. But I thought it was just pretty cool to see Tiger, go out there. And I would love to see him win another major. I think, personally, I was talking to a buddy of mine this at one of my jobs I was at, and he was saying that, he'd do anything to give Tiger an arm and a leg just to, play as well as he's done in the past. But I told him, I was like, if Tiger ends up winning another major, which is be crazy to say, but if he does, I think it might have the argument of going down as the best round of golf in sports history. Not just golf in general, but best round in golf, but also maybe the best championship performance in sports history. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody were to say, yeah, absolutely. Because it's something interesting to see. I think Tiger is a rare breed of athletes that you don't see nowadays, like the Cristiano Ronaldo's, the Lionel Messi's kind of zoning back into soccer and stuff. But you're not going to see those type of players anymore. And if you do, it's going to be a rare thing to see. So, but going forward with that, championship style of accolades, you have The Rock, who's been a multi-time champion in wrestling. Well, now he's, the owner of the XFL. And I got to admit, opening weekend of the XFL, I'm a fan. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a fan. And football is on. I'm in. I'm watching. I'm a fan. I liked a lot of the rule changes that XFL made, or I guess rule adjustments. I have them on my phone. I'll read them off to you. But my initial reactions with the XFL, I thought it was great. I thought it was really competitive. Yeah, the officiating was a bit, splotchy here and there. The biggest thing I had a problem with was the Fail Mary, I think, that, back in the preseason they had the referee lockout in the NFL. There was a play that happened exactly like that. I think it was like the first game of the weekend. It was the Renegades versus the Vipers, the Vegas Vipers. and that was like, they called it a touchdown. So I was like, I don't know about that one. I mean, because it looked like the cornerback had full possession of the ball, but as they were coming down, the wide receiver kind of snagged it out of his arms, and it almost like they had equal possession of the ball. So I don't know. I feel like, you know, they did the right thing of calling it a touchdown, because once the guy hit the ground, the receiver mainly had possession of it, but also it was equal possession. So, you know, inconclusive evidence, you got to stand with what was called on the field. That makes sense. But getting into stuff like that, the referees were a bit off and on, but the main thing that I was very intrigued about was the instant replay, the challenges and all the above. That is exactly what the NFL needs. They need some sort of like transparency factor where the fan looking in the stadium or at home can understand what they're looking at. Because if there's barely any explanation, we all saw it this past year in the NFL. Calls were brutal. We're seeing, prime example, the Super Bowl, a very ticky-tacky type call at the very end of the game where, yeah, you could see there was a hold, but should it have been called in that, you know, part of the Super Bowl, like the last play of the offensive possession for the Chiefs? I don't know. That's up to your discretion. Let me know down below. I don't know. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting to think about. I think the XFL is doing things where they are implementing things that is kind of making the NFL like, maybe we should do something like that. So let me read off some of the rules the XFL is doing that's completely different from the NFL. Let's start out here on the top. Game timing. Clock will start following incomplete pass out of bounds prior to the 2-minute warning. So every time the ball is thrown incomplete or it's, you know, guys tackle, whatever, the clock is continually running. After the play is stopped, it'll stop for about a second or two, then it'll continually run, which I love. Then once it gets to the 2-minute warning, then it'll stop. And I'm just like, okay, I dig that. I dig that 100%. After the 2-minute warning, it'll go under to 159. It'll stop after every other play if they were to go out of bounds, spike it, whatever. I like that. I think that's a great idea. The next thing I like was the play clock was, well, I don't know about this, but play clock was increased from 25 seconds to 35 seconds. I mean, I don't know if I'm a fan of that, just because all the quarterbacks and linebackers and such, their coordinators and coaches are talking to them throughout the whole entire play. They mentioned it this past weekend on the broadcast. I think Greg McElroy, the former Alabama quarterback who's now an ESPN analyst, he said on the broadcast that like the coaches are able to talk to the players throughout the whole entire play, because there was one play where I think the Renegades quarterback didn't see a back shoulder throw, and he was looking towards the right side, and it was on his left shoulder on his backside and threw it back to the corner, and they scored a touchdown. Like that, that to me is just like, I don't think play clock should be 35 seconds. I think 25 is good. It leaves a little bit more excitement to the game, I think, in my opinion, because if you leave a little bit of extra excitement, you're going to get more action. I think that's the thing. But we're already getting plenty of action in the XFL so far. So next thing on here is timeouts increased from 2 to 3 per half, which is cool. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, for overtime. No coin toss. It's a back and forth possession. Basically, you get 3 tries at it, and whoever scores them, which I think is pretty cool. 3 attempts per team, and each of them are 2-point conversions. The next thing I liked about, after you score a touchdown is you have a 1-point try, a 2-point try, and a 3-point try. They call them conversions. 1-point conversion, 2-point conversion, 3-point conversion. I thought it was pretty cool because you look at it and you just think, man, you're on the 2-yard line, let's go for 1. No, it seemed like everybody this past weekend in the XFL was like, let's go for 2. Let's try it out, 5-yard line. It's easily a doable thing to do. So they did it. They tried it out, and like I would say the conversion rate was not good. I'd say it had to be easily under 40%. Easily. There was no way a lot of them were converted. Now, one play I did like actually happened Sunday night. They did some XFL Sunday Night Football, and former Cowboys quarterback Ben DiNucci threw a touchdown pass to former wide receiver in the NFL, Josh Gordon. That's a 1-2 tandem I am interested to watch for the Seattle, I think Sea Dragons, I think is the name. And I'm intrigued to watch it. I really am. But anyways, Ben DiNucci, they went for a 3-point conversion. They were really aggressive on offense, and they ended up getting the I think, defense to go offsides, and they bumped the ball up 5 yards. Even though they still went for the 3-point conversion, they bumped it up to the 5-yard line where you normally convert a regular 2-point conversion. So I think that's pretty interesting. I like that. I feel like that could be a good strategy in the XFL. It'd be like, hey, we're claiming we're going to go for 3 points here for a 3-point conversion, and then they do a hard count. I would not be surprised. With the talent in the XFL, some guys can't hold their water. I wouldn't be surprised. So if you do a hard count on a 3-point conversion, bump it up to the 2-point conversion, that yardage at the 5-yard line, convert it. I feel like the conversion rate would be a lot more, I guess promising is the best way to put it. So that's something I liked in the XFL. I thought that was a big takeaway that I liked a lot. Let's see, what else is out here? Oh, yes, kickoffs. So kickoffs, it was interesting. You know what? Give me a second. Let me get my whiteboard. So I'm going to draw this out real quick. Give me a second. So we got... All right, you got the receiver here. Oh, that's not good. A little explanation time, sorry. You got the receiver here, and you got a bunch of... Oh, let me just draw the whole field. It's a bad representation of a field, but we're going to go with it. All right, so the receiving team has 11 guys. Hang on, this ain't going to fly. Hang on. It's better to draw it all out before I explain it. All right, and you got your kicker back here. All right, so this is sideways. All right, the kicker is way over here. Then the receiver, the returner, is over here around like the 10-yard line whatsoever. All these guys right here are lined up on the 35 and the 30-yard line of the receiving team. And supposedly Supposedly the best option for this is because it makes it more enjoyable to watch, less injuries. I'm all for it. I think the NFL should implement something like that. People are like, oh, that's soft, whatever. I was like, no, but it's interesting though. Like it gives more opportunity to return the ball. Like everybody wants to see their team score. They want to see touchdowns. I mean, yes, the NFL, everybody wants it to be the hardest place to play for your betterment of the career if you're an athlete going to play in the NFL. Like I get it. But also you got to make it enjoyable for the fans because people want to enjoy watching football, and I'm one of the guys that enjoys watching XFL as well. But anyways, here's the explanation for the kickoffs. Kicking team and return team start play 5 yards apart, so 30 and 35-yard line, like I said. It eliminates high-speed collisions and enhances player safety. Already said that. More returns, less touchbacks. Valid. And it says here that I don't really agree with this. I don't know where they got this data from, but 92% of kickoff returns in the XFL 2.0 compared to 39.6% in the NFL. Now, I understand the 39.6%, but where did they get the 92% kickoff returns in the XFL 2.0? So obviously that was the XFL prior to COVID. So I don't know how they got I know how they got the numbers, but to me it seems a bit skewed. That's my only issue with it. Those numbers probably are a bit skewed because they probably did have, a lot more returns. And now the thing is, it's not really clear about is when they mean by returns, they mean by like past the 50-yard line or plus down territory, or a full-on like return to the end zone. That's the thing I'm not too sure about. Now, I'd be interested in looking more into it. I really would. I probably will. But also on the kickoffs, it says average XFL drives started at the 29-yard line compared to the 25-yard line in the NFL. So an extra 4 yards, so probably around the 30, basically what it is. Now, I do recall listening and watching the games this past weekend when they said punt returns, like on punt team, that it's kind of not a punter's league. It really isn't. Punters, they kind of getting disciplined to the point where if you get a giant touchback past the 35-yard line on the opposing side of the field, the ball is brought back out to the 35-yard line. So I like it and I hate it. I hate it for the punters because, if you're trying to get back to the NFL and you're a punter, then like it's kind of not giving you a fair chance at it. But oh well, that maybe you see more USFL players, maybe see more XFL go to the USFL. I don't know. I don't know. That's crazy to think about. Anyways, also going into that, you think about with, say for instance, you're at the 45-yard line. Say you have the ball, 4th and 2. You're at your own 45-yard line. Well, you're about 20, 30 yards away from, punting it to them again, so why wouldn't you just go for it? 4th and 3, 4th and 4, just go for it. And I think that's what the XFL is trying to create, more of that competitive style, more of that, oh man, we're this close, let's just go for it. So it draws an eye. It really does. It draws an eye for a lot of fans that, are looking for something different in football. And I think the XFL, they're on to something. Like I said, I'm sold. I'm a fan. I can't complain about it. I really can't. It's football. I think it's just something that everybody's going to have to get used to. I get it. The talent is not as great as the NFL, but it's almost like the XFL has its own category of like skill. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but it's pretty interesting to listen to all these, players that are in the XFL currently and their background story. Like some of them come from a rough background. Some of them come from, I just need a second chance. Some of them come from, I've never played football before, but I'll start playing in Division III. And they end up playing in Division III and playing in the XFL. Like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to see. I'm trying to see some other rules the XFL has implemented. Ooh, I forgot. The double pass. You don't see this often. Obviously, in the NFL, it's illegal, but you don't see it as often in the XFL. Before, they stopped for a year or so. They were doing the double pass. So it says here, if a team completes a forward pass behind the line of scrimmage, the team may throw a second forward pass as long as the ball has not crossed the line of scrimmage, obviously. It says once the ball is past the line of scrimmage, no forward passes are permitted. Obviously, we know that. And it says here, less risky because the first pass may fall incomplete rather than becoming a live ball laterally. So I understand that as well. That's kind of cool. That's cool to think about. I feel like there are some gray areas in the XFL rulebook that could be abused. For example, the first one that I mentioned was the 2-point conversion try. You could say you're going for 3, do a hard count, move it up 5 yards, and you get yourself a 3-point conversion on a 2-point conversion 5-yard line. So that's something to look into. But overall, speaking of rules, I kind of want to share some stuff about college football. My brother actually sent this to me, and I was kind of thrown off by it because, college football is its purest form right now. I like the way college football is. Let's see here. Proposed college football rule changes. It has here, prohibit consecutive timeouts. I can understand why that could be annoying, but at the same time, it comes in handy. No longer extending a first or third quarter for an untimed down if the quarter ends on a defensive penalty. I get that. I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I feel like it's okay right now. I feel like people would be all right with it. But also I can see people who could just care less about it. Clock will continue to run after the offense gains a first down except inside of the 2 minutes and a half. So that's kind of what the XFL is doing right now. I'm not a fan of it. Like, for the XFL, I'm a fan of it. But for college football, I'm not really a fan of it because if you think about it, we all have been, witnesses of, if you're going from college football, you're then going to go to the NFL. Because there was no feeder league of USFL and XFL at the time. Probably in the early 1990s, early 2000s type thing. But the fact of the matter is that, you don't want to change the current rules in the NFL if the XFL is already exercising those type of rules. You kind of want the college football spectrum to mirror the NFL a little bit, just because these guys in college, I get some of them are playing in the XFL now, some are playing in the USFL because they didn't make it to the NFL, but there are some guys, and a decent majority, I think, that will play college football and are playing at the next level. I mean, obviously, we all see it on TV. You got some guys that go to the next level, but I just don't think that's the right rule to implement, especially for college football. I don't think that's the right one. Just let the XFL and the USFL experiment with that rule, but just leave the clock alone. I think you just got to leave the clock alone because everybody's been, used to it at this point. At college football, you always stop the clock after a first down until the offense is set, basically. So let's leave that. The fourth one that's on here, it says, clock will continue to run after an incomplete pass once the ball is spotted for play. Again, that's another XFL rule. Not a fan of it. I mean, I'm a fan of it in the XFL and the USFL, but I'm not a fan of it for, college football. Just leave college football the way it is. America loves its football. Just leave it the way it is. Let it be. Like, college football is great. Everybody loves the pageantry of winning a national title, winning your conference, beating your rival. Everyone loves that. Just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. It is at its purest form right now. And the best part about college football is that people, especially athletes, student athletes, are getting the grasp and understanding of NIL. Like, I think we've all come to the conclusion that NIL has worked itself out, from my perspective, that is. It has worked itself out, that athletes kind of know now that, maybe if I get paid X amount of money here, I'll go play here. But also, they have their own platform. They can kind of, advertise for themselves. Like, I can advertise for this car company at this university. I don't have to advertise for this car at that university where, maybe their recruiting class is not great, but I get paid more. Well, you're going to go play football at this Power 5 school that's going to be a college football playoff contender every year. Go to that school. Like, I feel like the playing field of the NIL is starting to kind of equal out a little bit, and I hope it does. I really do. I'm glad to see that it's kind of equaling out, for the most part. That's just from what I see. I could be completely wrong, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. Let's see, what else is out there? I think that's about it. Obviously, don't have anything right now for Meals with Meatball. Normally I review some sort of hot chicken sandwich. So, you know what? I might end up doing that. I think, normally I have somebody else here with me to do it, but I don't. I think we'll try that out. We'll try that out without people here. I'm going to try and see if I can get some Chick-fil-A maybe. I don't know. Chick-fil-A. But yeah, everybody, thank you so much for joining in on this episode of the Nick Frazier Podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.